Hello, in this video I will talk about Five Nights at Freddy's 3 and how I would improve it. Fnaf 3 is definitely not the most popular Fnaf game. It usually ends up pretty low on people's tier lists. However, I am a Fnaf 3 defender. I think the game is good, but this video isn't about why I think Fnaf 3 is good. No, this video is about how I would improve the game, because let's face it, Fnaf 3 is far from a perfect game. Keep in mind, I am not a game designer, I'm just some random content creator that thought making this video would be fun, so don't take anything I would change or add too seriously. I will go over some things I would add, change, or maybe even remove in order to make the game better. Like and subscribe, and I hope you enjoy. The biggest problem with Fnaf 3 isn't the atmosphere or the story or the horror. I'd say it's definitely the gameplay. So let's talk about the gameplay first. I will give ideas on improvements that I feel like would fix it. I feel like the biggest issue with the gameplay is that, well, the game is kinda too easy and dull sometimes. So I'll try to fix that. The first thing I want to talk about is the animatronics. As most of you probably know, there is only one lethal animatronic in Fnaf 3. Although the phantom jumpscares increased Springtrap's aggression when they jumpscared you, which made Springtrap faster and more likely to kill you, it still sucks that there is only one lethal enemy. I like that the phantoms aren't an immediate death, however. They hinder the player but still give them a chance to win. However, having a second animatronic that would be able to kill you would improve the game in my opinion. Plus, a new animatronic that can kill the player would prevent the player from just trapping Springtrap on one camera for the entire night. Although this strategy doesn't have a 100% chance of working. I feel like having a second animatronic that is, well, lethal would really prevent this strategy from being used because, like, it's very easy, you don't have to do much. Now, what animatronic would I add? I don't know, I mean, we could do like a weird Fredbear, but that wouldn't make lore sense. So, whoa, what about this box? Maybe an amalgamation of these parts put together into a large animatronic. That way we don't really have to mess up the lore that much, and this teaser would exist for a much bigger purpose than teasing a prop in the office. So yeah, imagine all this shit turned into one big robot. Let's call him Jimmy, for the purpose of making this video. Meet Jimmy, everybody. Deciding a gameplay mechanic for Jimmy was pretty difficult, but I have two suggestions. The boring one is that Jimmy could just be a second Springtrap, and just nerf them so that the game isn't too hard with two of them. This is a pretty boring suggestion, because I feel like a unique mechanic would be better. So yeah, here's my second suggestion. So, this supposed Jimmy would be made out of several pieces of old animatronics. Well, what if you had to track him on the cameras, and he was like Springtrap but slower and more easily fooled? But he could send out some pieces of himself to go hunt after you. Like, you have to keep both Jimmy and Springtrap away, but sometimes Jimmy may send out, I don't know, that Toy Bonnie part of his body to go kill you. And to prevent the pieces from killing you, well, I think maybe introducing a new mechanic would be good. Like maybe in the maintenance panel you could hack it somehow, so that it doesn't reach you and kill you. And that would waste time and allow Springtrap to get closer, so I think those two mechanics work well together with each other. Yes, I know that this creepy old depressing place is unlikely to have a maintenance panel where you can hack parts of a robot, but well, I don't wanna just give it the same mechanic that Springtrap has. And besides, we had like advanced sister location animatronics in the 80s, okay, so I don't think it's that far-fetched. I think Jimmy should be a much tamer and easier version of Springtrap that you can die to, but he also could send parts of himself to come hunt you down. I really hope what I just said makes sense. If you were to add a new animatronic to Fnaf 3, what would their mechanic be? Tell me in the comments below. Moving on, another thing I would change is some of the phantom animatronics. All three of these, BB, Puppet and Chica, get activated basically the same way. You look at the cameras, there they are, and if you don't click away quick enough, they show up. Although this is fine, I think it's a little repetitive. We also have Phantom Mangle, but I think Mangle should stay the same, because BB and Mangle both had the same mechanic in Ultimate Custom Night, so I think it fits. And because I can't come up with an idea for a mechanic for Phantom Mangle right now, yeah, I promise I'm not lazy. So I would change the mechanics of Chica and Puppet. Starting with Chica, although I will miss her creepy face on the arcade cabinet, I think a new mechanic would do Chica good. You know those cupcakes you have to collect to get one of the secret minigames? Well, what if Chica had a small chance of appearing on every camera, and when she does, you have to find and click the cupcake on the camera she is in. If you take too much time, Chica jumpscares you. I feel like this would work because the Fnaf 3 cameras are unique. They are very dark and often locating Springtrap is difficult on them. There's just so much static and all the characters really blend into the environment. So that's why I think replacing Chica's mechanic with this would work. Locating Chica, and especially her cupcake on the camera, would be difficult. Now of course Chica would have a low chance of appearing, because I would not want her to appear too often, because then that would honestly be annoying as hell. The suggestion I have for Phantom Puppet is a rather unique one, and one inspired by the Five Nights at Freddy's fan game, Juniors. Phantom Puppet would have a chance of appearing. When they do, a quiet music box that's difficult to hear would play. When it plays, the player would have to play the audio lure. However, the audio lure would not affect Springtrap, and it would not use up one of your audio lure uses, so you do not have to reboot it. When Phantom Puppet is there, the audio lure will only work for the Phantom Puppet. I think this is a rather cool mechanic, because it forces the player to listen, and I just love sound mechanics in FNAF. I have one more suggestion on how to make the gameplay of Five Nights at Freddy's 3 more exciting. It's a small addition, but I think it would be a fun one. You know the system errors in FNAF 3? Well, rebooting them is kinda boring. I get that they add strategy to the game, and I like their mechanic, because I mean, the game would be way too boring if you had no systems to reboot. I just think that maybe we could update how we reboot these systems. What if each system had an assigned minigame that you have to do, that rewards the player for being skillful at it by making them waste less time by repairing the errors? The minigames would have something to do with the error. What do I mean by this? Well, I'll show you by giving you an example. I think that for the camera system minigame, we could have something simple. The cameras in FNAF 3 are quite, well, dark, and there's a lot of static. It's really hard to look for Springtrap on certain cameras. Well, what if we took advantage of that and created a minigame where you have 4 different cameras, and one of them has a Phantom animatronic hiding in it, and you need to click the one with the Phantom animatronic to eliminate it and, well, repair the camera system. Each night there should be more and more static, so that it is harder to see. And I maybe even think that you should do 2 or 3 in a row in the later nights, because I'm kinda scared that if you only had to do it once, the errors would only take like 2 seconds to fix. I also think that these minigames should penalize the player for getting them wrong, like for example not being able to try again for 5 seconds after failing. I think if you balance these minigames right, then they could become a really good addition. For the audio system minigame, I think it should be something similar to the Bonnie repairing minigame and Help Wanted, where the panel will play 4 sounds, one will be slightly different, and you will have to click the one that is different. For the ventilation error, man, I'm running out of ideas. I'm thinking of a minigame where you kind of have to do like a pipe maze to fix the vent. Yeah, it's simple, but I think it could work. And I think that the reboot all would just give you all 3 of these. I think that these should become gradually more difficult throughout the game, and maybe have the player do them once or twice each time, or make the player really pay attention, because I'm scared that the player might be able to repair these systems a little too fast. I still think that repairing your systems should take time. There's a reason that the mechanic of them breaking is there after all. I think that if the minigames are balanced enough, they would be a good addition. although I am scared that they might get repetitive and annoying after a while. I feel like these minigames would help the game feel less boring, because the player would actually have to do something to reset the systems instead of waiting. I think my suggestions helped in making the gameplay less dull, because now the phantom animatronics are different, and you need to listen for the phantom puppet. What can I say? I'm a fan of sound mechanics in Fnaf games. I also think that the introduction of Jimmy makes the game more interesting, by making the player go into other cameras, not just the one Springtrap is in. That's about it for the gameplay part of how I would improve Fnaf 3, but I still have some other things to go over. A lot of people were disappointed with the jump scares, specifically the Springtrap jump scares, and I agree. So how would I fix it? Well, I can't animate a jump scare myself, but I could give you a general description of how I would like one to look like. Now, I want the jump scare to have a little bit more than Springtrap getting closer to you, but I do not want it to be too chaotic like the Ultimate Custom Night Springtrap jump scare, because I mean, look at it. It's just too silly. I think a middle ground here would be nice. Maybe even a jump scare where Springtrap grabs the player, kind of like in The Joy of Creation and The Glitched Attraction, where he could run up to you, grab you and throw you to the ground. I think that would be both scary and really cool, and I feel like it would fix the problem people had with the original Springtrap jump scares. Another thing that I feel would make the game creepier is making the office a bit darker. Not too dark, I still feel like the green should be visible, but I mean, compare the FNAF 1 office with the FNAF 3 office. It's much darker and creepier, and I feel like changing up the atmosphere of the office a little bit would really benefit the horror aspect of this game. The office is where you're gonna be getting jump scared, so I feel like having this area be at least a little darker would really fit the game. Well, that was my list of improvements for Five Nights at Freddy's 3. Most of them are focused on gameplay because that's where I feel the biggest problem with FNAF 3 is. I hope you enjoyed. Like and subscribe. Oh, by the way, I'm planning on making a video on Dormitibus Remastered, so stay tuned for that. This was GameSpeaking, and goodbye.